Welcome back to Mathematics Lifeline. In today's video, I'd like to go over the quadratic formula and show a few examples of how we can apply it in real problems. Now, this is the general formula for the quadratic formula, and it looks really confusing, especially if you've never seen it before. Um, but it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, you might be thinking, where do these a, b, and c even come from? Well, they come from the standard form of a quadratic, right? So that is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So what we're doing with this equation is we're taking these numbers, a, b, and c. These are just our coefficients, just numbers. They can be any constant, right? We're taking those, we're plugging them into this formula, and it gives us two solutions for x, depending on what the values of a, b, and c are. Now, I think it's easier to just go ahead and start with some applications of this. So we're going to go ahead and do a few examples. We'll do 3 in this video. They kind of get a little bit harder, but it does help you to learn how we can use this quadratic formula. So we're going to go ahead and get started with example 1 right now. Okay, so here we have example number 1, and we want to find both solutions for x, where we have x squared plus 4x plus 3 equals 0. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're going to use the quadratic equation. Now, there are other ways to solve for this, but in this video, I'm going to focus on quadratic equation because we're going to do that in the more general sense for the rest of these problems. But this is our quadratic that we have right here. Remember, this is the standard form of the quadratic. So we have ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, the easiest ones to see is going to be the b and the c, right? This 4 is going to be our b, and the 3 is going to be our c, right? Because it plugs right into those equations. Now remember, when we have just x squared, that means that really we have a 1 out here, right? Because there has to be only one of them. That's going to be our a. So we're going to go ahead and write that over here. So we're going to say a is equal to 1, b is equal to 4, and c is equal to 3. And now using that information, what we're going to do is plug these values into this formula. So we're going to say x is equal to, the first thing we have is negative b. Now remember, b was 4, so this is going to be a negative 4. Then we have this plus or minus, right? And all this is, the plus minus tends to confuse people, but all it is just saying when we're actually simplifying everything down and solving for x, we're going to add 1 for one solution of x, and we're going to subtract 1 for the other. So you'll see how this works in a second if you're confused by this part. And then we have the square root, so big square root, and then we have b squared. Now remember, b was 4, so we're going to have 4 squared minus 4ac. So this is going to be a minus of 4. Remember, a was 1, so 4 times 1 times c, which was 3. And all of that is over 2 times a. But remember, a was 1, so 2 times 1. Okay, so this is us plugging everything in. So we're going to go ahead and just try to simplify everything. So what we have is negative 4 plus or minus the square root. Now we want to simplify what's in here. So 4 squared is going to be 4 times 4, which is 16, minus 4 times 1 times 3. Well, that's really just 4 times 3, which is 12. And remember, all of that is over 2 times 1, which is 2. So then again, what we have is negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 12. Well, 16 minus 12 is just 4 all over 2. So then coming down here, we have negative 4 plus or minus. Now the square root of 4, remember, is 2. So we have negative 4 plus or minus 2 over 2. And remember, these is our solutions for x. So when we finally figure out what these are, we're going to say x is equal to negative 4 plus 2 over 2, and x is equal to negative 4 minus 2 over 2. This is what that plus or minus means in the middle, right? We have one of the solutions going to be with a plus, the other one is going to be with a minus. So in this case, x is equal to negative 4 plus 2 is a negative 2, and negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So x equals negative 1 is a solution. But then we also have this one. We have negative 4 minus 2. Negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. Divide that by 2, we get x is equal to negative 3. So that means that negative 1 and negative 3 are the two solutions for x in the equation x squared plus 4x plus 3 equals 0. So you can see that it's nice to have this formula because we're able to just plug in the numbers that we're given, and we just automatically will get two answers right here. And that's what's so nice about this formula. Now, these ones turned out to be pretty nice numbers, right? We have just a -1 and a -3. Those are nice, clean numbers. There are times where you're not going to get such clean numbers. So we're going to go ahead and do an example of that right now. Okay, so here we have example number 2. And again, we want to find both solutions for x, but this time it's 3x squared minus 7x plus 2 equals 0. Now again, we're going to want to write down what a, b, and c are. So a is going to be equal to 3, b is going to be equal to minus 7, and c is going to be equal to 2, right? Using the standard form, using the numbers that we have right here. So now we want to go ahead and try to plug into our quadratic formula. So we're going to have x is equal to negative b. Well, this time b is a negative number. So -7 is a positive 7. So we're going to have 7 plus or minus the square root. B squared is going to be, so it's going to be -7 squared, right? Minus 4 times a times c, right? Which is 3 times 2. So 4 times 3 times 2. And all of that is over 2 times a, which was 3. So we want to simplify again. So we're going to have 7 plus or minus the square root. -7 squared is -7 times -7. That's going to be 49 minus 4 times 3 times 2 is going to give us 24. And all of that is over 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. So we're going to simplify just a little bit more. We're going to have 7 plus or minus the square root. 49 minus 24 is actually 25. So we have minus 25, or plus or minus the square root 25 over 6. And then there's one more thing we can do to simplify, because we're going to get 7 plus or minus the square root of 25 is actually going to be 5. So 7 plus or minus 5 over 6. So now that means that we have two solutions for x. We have x is equal to 7 plus 5 over 6, and x is equal to 7 minus 5 over 6. Okay, so we can use what we know about, we can just simplify these, right? We're done whenever we simplify. So x is equal to 7 plus 5, which is 12, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. And then we have x is equal to 7 minus 5. 7 minus 5 is 2 divided by 6. Well, we can actually simplify that to 1/3. So 2/6 or 1/3 will work here. And again, these are our two solutions. So like I said, we're not getting the nicest numbers here because we have this fraction, but that doesn't mean that these solutions are incorrect. If we were to plug these in, we would actually get 0 whenever we plug in x equals 2, or if we plug in x equals 1/3. So the quadratic formula gave us both of these solutions, and we didn't have to factor anything. We didn't have to do anything that was too challenging. So that's it for example number 2. We're going to do example number 3. It's going to be a little bit trickier. It's going to involve simplifying a square root, but I'm sure we can get it done with this quadratic formula. So we're going to go ahead and do example 3 right now. Okay, so here we have example number 3. Again, we want to find both solutions for x when we have 2x squared minus 6x plus 3 equals 0. Now, if you want to go ahead and try this one using the quadratic formula, go right ahead. And we will be doing it right here. This one, like I said, is going to be a little bit tricky, but if you can do it, then you're in great shape. So let's go ahead and get started. So we have, remember, we're going to write down what a, b, and c are. So we have a is equal to 2, b is equal to -6, and c is equal to 3. So now that we have a, b, and c, this is fairly systematic, right? We can go ahead and just plug right into this equation. So we have x is equal to negative b. Well, remember, the same thing as last time. -6 is a positive 6. Then we'll have that plus or minus the square root. B squared is going to be, of course, -6 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 3. And all of that is going to be over 2a. And remember, a was 2. So we have 2 times 2. Okay, so now we want to simplify a little bit more. So we're going to get 6 plus or minus the square root. -6 squared is -6 times -6, which gives us 36, minus 4 times 2 times 3 is 24. And all of that is over 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. Again, we need to keep simplifying, so we're going to have 6 plus or minus the square root 36 minus 24 is equal to 12. And all of that is over 4. Okay, so this is where this one gets a little bit tricky, and the reason is because this is technically a valid answer, but when we get to the end, we're able to simplify this a little bit more because we can simplify the square root of 12. So the square root of 12, remember, we can write that as the square root of 4 multiplied by the square root of 3, right? So if that's the case, the square root of 4 is equal to 2. So we have 2 square root 3. That's what the square root of 12 is actually equal to. So we're going to replace the square root of 12 with 2 square root 3 so that we can get it as simple as possible. So we're going to have 6 plus or minus 2 square root 3 all over 4. So that is our new simplified version. Now there is one more thing that we can do with that because we're able to factor out a number from every single one of those terms. So what we're going to do is we are going to try to simplify this as much as we can. And we notice that we can pull a 2 out of these terms, and we can pull a 2 out of the 4, right? So this can really simplify. If we divide everything by 2, this will be 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 all over 2. Now, the reason is because we want to just divide every term by 2 since we can. So we're dividing the 6 by 2 and we're getting a 3. We're dividing the 2 square root 3 by 2 and we're just getting a normal square root 3. And we're dividing 4 by 2 and we're getting a 2. So this is what x is equal to. So to get our final answer, we're going to say that x is equal to, we're going to do the plus version. So it's 3 plus the square root of 3 all over 2. And x is equal to 3 minus the square root of 3 all over 2. And because of these square roots, this is pretty much as simple as that answer can get. So if you did this on your own and you got here, then you're definitely in great shape. Now, if you leave it like this, that's okay, and it is technically the right answer, but you might lose some points because you can simplify it a little bit more than in that form. So we're going to get it into this form, and then that gives us our 2 answers immediately. So yeah, that's it for this video on the quadratic formula. This is such a useful trick, especially when you can't factor things nicely. We're able to get both solutions for x in this way, and it's way more, you just plug into this formula, and that's helpful to a lot of students. So that's it for the quadratic formula. Again, let me know if you have any questions. If you want me to make another video on this, I would be glad to. Just let me know in the comments. But if not, then I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.